Hello, welcome to Bards in the Basement. Today we will be doing a read-through of Digging by Seamus Heaney. Seamus Heaney was a 20th century poet from Northern Ireland. He was born in County Derry. He described his childhood as being somewhere between the archaic and the modern. A nice, tight, insulated family, and he writes about growing up in the traditional Irish cottage, if you will, and the mice and the moisture not only outside but inside, and hearing the rumble of the modern train as it whisked by his home. He also notes that his earliest influences were Chaucer and Emily Dickinson and Keats, and his modern influences were Robert Frost and Wallace Stevens. So he likes that space that between the archaic world, the past, and the modern. And he'll explore that idea in the poem Digging, which is the poem we're going to be looking at today. On the left-hand side, you see the poem itself. On the right-hand side, you see the literary terms that I will address. Certainly, there's going to be more left unsaid about the poem than said, but I hope I get you interested enough that you'll go and you'll check out this poem and other poems by Seamus Heaney. Let's hear the poem first, though. Digging by Seamus Heaney. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests, snug as a gun. Under my window, a clean, rasping sound when the spade sinks into the gravelly ground. My father, digging, I look down, till his straining rump among the flower beds bends low, comes up 20 years away, stooping in rhythm through potato drills, where he was digging. The coarse boot nestled on the lug. The shaft against the inside knee was levered firmly. He rooted out tall tops, buried the bright edge deep, to scatter new potatoes that we picked, loving their cool hardness in our hands. By God, the old man could handle a spade, just like his old man. My grandfather cut more turf in a day than any other man on Toner's bog. Once I carried him milk in a bottle, corked sloppily with paper. He straightened up to drink it, then fell to right away, nicking and slicing neatly, heaving sods over his shoulder, going down and down for the good turf, digging. The cold smell of potato mold, the squelch and slap of soggy peat, the curt cuts of an edge through living roots awaken in my head. But I've no spade to follow men like them. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests. I'll dig with it. Wonderful. What really I love about this poem is just the sound effects, the arrangement of words in a particular order. So not only do you see, but you hear the process of digging by the father and the grandfather. Now, on the right-hand side, you see the first definition is free verse, poetry that does not rhyme or have regular meter. But that doesn't mean the poet has just thrown words on the page like those electric magnet poems that you throw in your refrigerator, and wherever they land, there's a poem. There is still so much structure to this poem. If we just look at the first stanza, the first two lines, between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests, snug as a gun. Yeah, well, we may not have a set rhythm or a set meter, but we have some nice use of my finger, my thumb repetition. We also have the M's of my and the M in thumb, so we have nice sound effect. Look in those first two lines. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 uses of the U, thumb, squat, snug, gun. So there's this nice rhythm, nice sound. The words work so well together, fit so nicely together, like that snug gun or pen in his hand. And notice this, between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests. Semicolon, pause, snug as a gun. And so we could see that pen snug in his hand. We can imagine that gun, that pen in his hand. Now, some people want to say, oh, he refers to it as a gun because he's from Northern Ireland and he's writing about the Troubles. Yes, Seamus Heaney does write about the Troubles, but I don't want to reduce his poetry to just writing about the Troubles. I like in this line, snug as a gun, playing on the idea the pen is mightier than the sword. The pen is mightier than the gun, or in this case, the pen is a substitute for the shovel used by his father and grandfather. But once again, just with the free verse, you don't want to just think that it's words randomly thrown on a page and like, it's a poem. No, there's still the poet organizing those words, going for sound effects, going for a rhythm through, as I pointed out, the semicolon, which is to say sora, an extended pause. And then the nice simile, which is the second vocab word, is snug as a gun, that comparing the pen to the gun. The pen is mightier than the gun. The pen is mightier than the sword. So I like that instead of reducing the poem to it's about the Troubles. Now, let's visualize this. We have the speaker of the poem looking out his window, and he hears, under my window, a clean rasping sound when the spade sinks into the gravelly ground, my father digging. Now we have that rasping, gravelly ground, spade sinks down, and that's all supposed to suggest like the of the spade going into the ground. And we hear the gravel with those guttural G's, the gravelly ground. All right, so we have the guttural sound there. We have the rasping sound there as the spade sinks down. Also, wonderful use. One of the vocab words is slant rhyme. We have thumb, gun, not exact rhymes in that first stanza, but slant rhyme. Sounds similar. Then we have sound ground. Yeah, exact rhymes. I look down. Down is a slant rhyme to ground and sound. So that once again, just reiterating that idea that it may be free verse, but that doesn't mean there's not an organization to sound and imagery and ideas. All right. So we have my father digging. So the writer hears that, looks outside. I look down. And notice there's no punctuation after the word down in that second stanza. This is called enjambment, where the line just drops down because he's looking down. It's wonderful. The poet is looking down. The speaker is looking down as the line drops down, and we see his father's straining rump. I look down till his straining rump among the flower beds bend. Beds bend. Nice B sounds there. Low. Comes up 20 years away, stooping to rhythm through potato drills where he was digging. So we have the word digging for the second time there, okay? So we see the father outside digging. We can hear the rhythm stooping in the rhythm through potato drills where he was digging. We can see him rhythmically digging down. And what's nice is that the speaker of the poem looks and sees his father, not just out there, but his father 20 years away in the past. And so this is a moment where the speaker of the poem is going to see his father, then his father as a younger man, and then that father's father, his grandfather. All right, next stanza, we have the coarse boot nestled on the lug. Now, think about the word lug, and it reminds us of the word snug in the first stanza. So nice sound to connect those ideas. And so the snug pen in the speaker's hand, the snug boot against the lug, the shaft, against the knee was levered firmly. So we see how the pen fits so nicely in the writer's hand in the first stanza. And in this fourth stanza, we see how the boot fits so nicely nestled on the shaft of the shovel. The coarse boot nestled on the lug. The shaft against the inside knee was levered firmly. He rooted out tall tops, buried the bright edge deep to scatter new potatoes that we picked, loving their cool hardness in our hands. Now, one of the literary devices is the use of alliteration. We have some buried bright, hard hands. We have some nice sound effects there with the alliteration. So we see the father digging. He rooted out. Keep the word rooted in your mind. He's digging down to the roots. The writer will use his pen to dig down. instead of into the potatoes, into history, into human history, into his family's history. But he's using a different tool to dig. Right, so we see that nice image of the father straining in the flower beds, and then that shifts to the father digging in the potatoes. And then we have a two-line stanza. The next stanza is a two-line stanza that acts as a shift, if you will, a transition from the present to the grandfather. By God, the old man could handle a spade, just like his old man. And hear that kind of like joy that the speaker has here. By God, that pride the speaker has here. The old man could handle a spade, just like his old man. My grandfather cut more turf in a day than any other man on Toner's bog. Now, before we move away from those two lines, turf is a material that was used to heat the homes in Ireland. It was a source of fuel, and you'd find it in the bogs. Seamus Heaney writes a wonderful series of poems about the bogs. This land that's marshy and swampy, and they have the buildup of decaying vegetation, and so the turf, the peat, is this kind of like solid, if you will. If you ever drive through Ireland, you'll see blocks of peat or turf cut on the sides of the road. They look like bricks, and it contains decaying vegetation. It contains it's like a repository of the geography of the land. And once again, that's so nice an image, because that turf that adds fuel, that will be that's symbolic, if you will, of the turf or the fuel for the poet, which is wonderful. Okay, so I really like what Seamus Heaney's doing here with the symbolism, if you will. All right, so now we have that shift to the grandfather. The grandfather could cut more turf in a day. I like, once again, the U sounds there. We had those U sounds in the first stanza. Once again, that's an example of assonance, the repetition of a vowel sound. So we have a repetition of that vowel sounds of the U again, cut in the cut turf. Than any other man, I'm back to the poem now, than any other man on Toner's bog. Once I carried him milk in a bottle, corked sloppily with paper. He straightened up and to drink it. Nice use of enjambment, so we see him straighten up and then drink it down. Nice imagery too. We can imagine that old glass bottle that just has paper on the top of it, and he's drinking that down. And he drinks it down and then fell right away. Right away, nice enjambment here, nicking and slicing neatly. So we see the nicking and slicing now. We see the grandfather falling right away. There's a focus and a determination and a work ethic here that both the father and the grandfather demonstrate for the speaker of the poem. And he will apply that work ethic to writing. It may not be digging with a shovel. It may not be digging in the flower bed or the potato drills or the cutting the turf. But he's going to be digging, and he's going to be focused, and he's going to labor differently, but labor nonetheless, and be focused nonetheless. So we have now that, once again, nice use of nicking, slicing neatly, heaving. Wonderful sound, right? Nicking, slicing, heaving. And that heaving sods over his shoulders, it's almost you can hear him heaving those sods over his shoulders, going down, down. For the good turf, digging. And digging, once again, set off with a period before and after, so digging. And the poet wants us to pause there. Think about digging. We have that phrase again, down and down, that the father would dig down and down. The grandfather would dig down and down. And now the writer, the speaker of the poem, will dig down and down. All right? Looking for that good turf. Looking for that good material to write about. That good material. It could be the personal, it could be the historical, it could be about the troubles, it could be about human nature, it could be about work ethic, family. But he'll be digging. The poet will nonetheless be digging. All right. So we're shifting back from the grandfather to the poet, to the speaker of the poem. Cold smell of potato mold, the squelch and slap of soggy peat, the curt cuts of an edge through living roots waken in my head. but I've no spade to foul men like them. Ah, we have this night. I really love this curt cuts of an edge. Nice hard C sounds. Nice squelch slap. Soggy Pete. And we think we're the reader thinks we're still outside in the possibly the flashback with the grandfather, or outside with the father digging, but no, we're now inside the poet's head. Cold slaps of potato mode, the squelch and slap of sogging Pete, the curt cuts of an edge, through living roots awaken in my head. So he's digging in his own head, digging in his own memories, thinking about his past, his family's past, Ireland's past, humans' past. Once again, read the bog poems. They're a wonderful exploration of the past. So he living roots in his head. But I've no spade to foul men like them. At one point, kind of like elevating men like them, men that worked hard. But I also think that he wants to recognize that he too will work hard. And that'll be the job of the writer. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests. I'll dig with it. Now, almost the same words in the first stanza. The between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests. Snug as a gun. Well, we don't have the snug in the gun in the last stanza. If you look at that, we don't have the snug as a gun, but we do have between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests. I'll dig with it, and that's a metaphor for the digging is a metaphor for the writing, the writing about his past, the writing about his world, writing about being human. So it's a wonderful poem by Seamus Heaney that uses so many sound devices, alliteration, assonance. So many slant rhymes, so we can see and hear what the poet's doing, and all those make up the poem. Once again, reiterating what I started the poem with: free verse. People think that it's free verse. There's no rhyme or reason to it, but there certainly is reason to this poem. That I hope that you enjoyed, and please continue reading Seamus Heaney, and go back and check out and look for ideas in the poem that I didn't cover that you can explore on your own. Thank you so much.